Welcome to this introduction to Python programming class with me and the collaboration of Cloud Classroom. So before I begin, I just want to ask all of you guys like a quick question. What is programming? Does anybody want to answer this question? Like, what do you guys think programming is, basically? And then if I'm familiar with Zoom, there should be a button called unmute, and then you can click on it, and then you can talk. And then if you want to answer this question, what is programming?
Okay. So programming is a language that you use for computers that it's like a conversation, except that in another kind of conversation.
Yes.
Not like in letters like hello, hello, like that.
Yes, that's kind of what's programming. That's exactly what is programming. Programming is a way to help us to communicate with the computer, communicate with any electronic devices. Yep.
So it's a way to basically hand out orders for the computer, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's a procedure that a computer can in some way to follow, which then it can go ahead and do some steps that we want it to do. So that's exactly what is programming. Great job. If I can know what's your name. All right, great job. All right, what's your name?
My name is Max. You can call me Max John. Max.
Okay, all right. Good, great job, Max, if I heard you correctly, maybe because when you say your name, it's a little bit laggy, so maybe not hear it correctly, but great job. That's a perfect response. And then somebody in the chat also said, what is the name of the site? I said the link above, maybe I will just send it again, since that's how Zoom behave. So here is where you can find all the slides and all the source code and your assignment later, no problem. And then making the thing do a thing by code. Yeah, specifically to make a computer do something that you wanted to do, as simple as print something out, play a computer game, a website, whatever you want, basically. And then programming can really create a lot of stuff for us. Basically, anything that you use involving internet, involve word doesn't involve internet, but involve like with electronic devices. For example, your phone, the computer that you're using, maybe laptop, tablets, maybe your iPad. But yeah, all of them are made by computer, especially not made by computer. All of them are made by programming, especially for the software side are made by programming. For example, here are some services that are made by programming. First of all, the website that we're going to be using for grading your assignment, github.com. This is where you will submit your assignment, grade your assignments. And then we also have Windows. Windows, does anybody know what is a Windows exactly?
Pardon? It was a bit lag.
Okay, does anybody know what exactly Windows is?
Oh.
Like what? So for example, github.com is a website. What do you think Windows is?
It's an operation system.
Yes, it is operating system. Great job. And then Kyle, if I remember correctly. And then what about this? This is software, and if you can see this is called Microsoft Office 365. Most of you guys should using Windows computers, and from my previous tutoring experience, most people using Windows computer. And on Windows computer, we'll find that there are three most common software: the Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. These are like pre-installed on every Windows computer. And this is what we call a software, which is also made by programming. So just list a few examples here: website, operating system, in software side, and then also software itself are made by programming. So you can see programming is really powerful. But how do we actually communicate with computer? Well, we communicate with human, communicate with human. For example, I'm communicating to you guys by English. It's a human language. To communicate with a computer, we also need some sort of way to communicate. And this is what we call a programming language or programming languages. So does anybody want to list some programming languages that you heard of or used of? Does anybody want to list any programming language as you heard of, if you know?
Like ellipse, like a.
Okay, I'm not. I heard of that, but I'm not sure you spell it correctly. Okay. I see a lot of language. Yeah, you can keep saying and I'll keep writing.
It's eclipse, yeah.
Eclipse. Okay, we got spelled it wrong. All right.
Eclipse, and then maybe something else like.
Okay.
No, I mean, 80, 75, 80, 75, maybe, and then 80, 75. That's just quite an ellipse. So in the x direction, it's 80, and in the y direction, it's 75. And how wide it is, it's 80, and how high it is depends on the last number, which is 75. So the eclipse is roughly in the ellipse.
All right, good. So I never heard of that. I actually heard of that language, but I never used that. But here are some languages I listed. You guys know like a lot of whoops. That's definitely a mistake. You guys definitely know a lot of programming languages. I just wrote a few down. And you can see I leave some empty spaces because my chat window's there. So like I cannot write there. But you can see we have lots of programming language. For example, C#, C++, Eclipse, that by Max, JavaScript, Python, Scratch. Scratch is, you can consider as it's a programming language. Has Scala, Pascal, Rust, Java, C, R, Kobo, Go, and then I think some mentioned Visual Basic as well. So these are some really powerful programs. Sometimes some of them are powerful.
How about Ruby?
Ruby, yeah. Ruby is also another one. Ruby is another one, Visual Basic. If you guys want to write, you guys can also write. I believe you can just annotate. Click on annotate button. You should be able to annotate. But where I can. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter for now. Okay, I think you guys can. But yeah, here are like a lot of programming languages. It's I already list C++ on the top, but it's fine. So you can see there's a lot of programming languages in the world. Some of them are popular. Some of them are not so popular. Some of them are old. Some of them are young, per se. For example, C is a really old programming languages. I believe it's created in 1960. 1960. It's kind of old, like really old, but still people use it because it's really fast. And I think this is maybe like the fastest language in the world. And then we also have other languages such like Scala, Pascal, which I don't think people really use them anymore. And we have some newborn popular language like JavaScript, Go, especially developed by Google. Ruby is not that popular, but it's good for developing websites. We also have like top 3 programming language list here: Python, JavaScript, and Java. They are like top 3 programming languages conducted by some professional survey maker. Also have HTML, which will make up the website. If you guys are, we'll actually spend 1 week specifically talk about developing websites, so you'll have a chance to discover HTML on your own. And F#, another Microsoft-made language. So you can see there's a lot of programming language, but the language that we're going to focus on in this class, is going to be Python. This is a language that's going to focus on this class, Python. Has anybody heard of Python before?
Nope.
No? Yeah? Okay. Okay, good. Does
I
anybody
can
have,
code a little bit in Python. Like I know the input and print stuff.
okay, all right. Sweet. All right. I see like a lot of people do know Python in the chat. All right. So you did this before? Okay, that's great. So this is basically intro to advanced Python class where we'll both start at the most fundamental principle of programming. Then we'll talk about algorithms. Yeah, SQL is another language for database. But yeah, we will start with basic variable, some if statements, some loops. Then we eventually talk about some higher, more advanced stuff, such like context manager, decorators in Python, and as well as class, object-oriented Python. Maybe some of you are new this, were maybe not new that much, but I hope all of you guys can learn something new from this class. We'll just review some of the old stuff that you learned. All right. So now we'll go ahead and start off by variable. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and start our actual coding for today, which I spent about 10 minutes just to explain what is programming. You guys share some of your programming languages. Like you guys really know a lot of programming languages. All right. So now what I want to do, shouldn't be on showing this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about variable. And then I'm just going to exit my PowerPoint or Google Slides. So now what I want you guys to do is head over to this link. I'm going to send in the chat. So make sure it's syndicated with GitHub, because now I'm actually going to use it. So if you guys can head over to this link, which then it should open up a new Gitpod interface. And then while you guys are go to this link and open up this Gitpod interface, I would briefly explain what is Gitpod. It's not a link. Yeah, it's not a link because I forgot to add HTTPS in front of it. But if you can just copy and paste into your browser, it should work. All right. And then if you have your own code editor installed, I still recommend you just use this like online version. So we can keep everybody on the same page. All right, again, you can go to bit.ly/gitpod1, which then should bring you to this interface. And then I will, if you are finished, please go ahead, raise your hand. Let's see, is there a way? Do I need to make a new GitHub account? Yes. And then you should be able to see a button that login. You can choose on like, if you haven't authenticated with it before, you need to click on start coding or something, and then you choose on login with GitHub. Login with GitHub, yeah. And then if you guys, can we use normal Python? What do you mean by normal Python, Ken?
Like idle, Python idle.
You could. Actually, you could, but when you submit your homework, you have to use one of the online interface because they support actually like upload your homework. Yeah, you can get to it. Well, just make sure that you go to Gitpod. So just gonna open up the incognito window. So here is, okay. So if we start with start by scratch. So we can go to bit.ly gitpod1. And then should take you somewhere. And then you can click on login and launch workspace, which I can click on login with GitHub. Login with GitHub. And then should go ahead and ask you to sign up, to enter your credentials. Okay. That's the procedure.
Oh, did you put it in the chat like the?
Yeah, I put in the chat. It's okay. I'm gonna try to make a real link this time. Bit.ly gitpod1. I'm not sure why you guys cannot get into it. You guys should. You guys should be able to get into it.
Yeah, I got in on one computer, but on the other, I'm watching the screen.
Okay. All right. But anyway, you guys should be able to see a screen like this. All right, good. Not sure, can you guys raise your hand in this Zoom?
Do you press log in and launch workspace?
Yeah. And then choose login with GitHub. Okay, I'm not sure, can I know everybody's here. Did you press create an account? If you don't have an account, yes, create an account. You did it, great job. Great job for you guys who already done this. Let's see, it's gonna be hard. Okay, how about this? Whoever is finished, just go ahead and type yes in the chat to me, please. Just type yes to the chat to me privately. So I would, if I see like a lot of yes, I will go and move on. Like you see this workspace, you see the screen basically. It doesn't work. What do you mean by it doesn't work, Ryan?
Do you go to GitHub or do you go to GitHub?
Okay, so the reason I want you to get GitHub on the first place so you can log in, so you don't have to like worry about that step. But you can just go to bit.ly/gitpod1. If you don't have GitHub account, you need to create one. Which
So
should
do
be
I go to workspaces or do I go to the login with GitHub or GitLab?
login with GitHub.
Oh.
I don't know how to log in. It doesn't.
Okay, okay.
When I go to like log in, it only lets me create a new account. There's no like.
Okay. So just log in with GitHub. Put your username and password there. If you don't have an account, just create an account. Okay.
I have.
You have. Could you log in?
No, I can't.
Do you enter your wrong password or username? Because if you create an account.
No. I've created an account, but like I just can't log in.
Okay, well
I created an account before class, and now I don't know how to log in.
Okay, well.
When I press log in,
Sometimes your username may only contain alphanumeric characters or single hyphens. What does that mean?
Okay. Are you creating an account right now? Whoever just said that. Okay, if so, that means your username can only contain these characters. So only can contain 8 characters. I mean, no, not only contain 8 characters. It kind of like minimum must be 8. So just type some username. It will tell you if it's wrong. It's basically formatting. Done. Great. Okay, gonna wait for a little bit more yes for you guys to set up. Okay, I'm gonna wait till 55. What's the website? I'm gonna send it again. For those of you who is already here, what I want you to do is go out, create a file, and then name it variable.py if you know how to do that. Okay, no, that's not a website. Gitpod one. Let's do.
Yep. Now I've got it. Yeah.
All right, good, great.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So if you guys are here while we are waiting for other people to get in, just create a file called this variable.py. And then you can go ahead and wait, where you can try to put some cool Python code and send it to me. All right. Does anybody else have any trouble when you log in with Git?
How do you type? How do you type?
All right, I would talk about that once everybody have the interface. Okay, you're on iPad. Okay, I'll do create a file. If you don't know how, I will just go ahead and you can just wait for me and I will help you. Call the file variable.py. Variable.py. You're not on an iPad, not MacBook. Okay, you're on an iPad. Okay, I'm not sure it's supported on iPad. You can try, but I recommend your thing. It said that the username or password is not correct. That means you enter your wrong password or username. What do I do when I say get started screen? I have logged in. Okay, if you logged in, you're talking about GitHub, right, Ethan? Then you can go to the link that I sent, the Gitpod link. So bit.ly/Gitpod1. Once you are finished with GitHub sign up. Yeah. All right. So does anybody else have any trouble for logging to Gitpod? Yes, Kyle, you have your hands raised. Oh, you can raise your hand. Okay.
I don't think she had raised her hand for any reason.
Okay. Well, I guess you're gonna lower your hand. If you have any questions, just feel free to unmute and ask. All right. Does anybody have? Which way do we choose to log in? Log in with GitHub, if that's what you're asking. You don't. Okay, I see some kind, but you sign in. So you have to verify your email. That's why I want you to sign up before the class. It has a little trouble. Oh, when you're done with your hand. Oh,
So
okay.
what does it mean that he wants to verify your email address?
So basically, go to your email. Okay, you need to actually log into your email, and then there should be a message come from github.com or no reply at github.com, and they're gonna say click on this link to verify your account. And then just click on it. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm gonna wait for roughly about 2 more minutes. Variable.py. Don't worry about how to make a file if you don't know. I will talk about that in just a little bit. Don't worry about that if you don't know how. All right. All right. So does anybody need any question? I mean, no. Okay, what am I saying? Does anybody need some help? Need any help?
Wait, it's when I type in the add email address and I add it, but then it says error adding Daniel, error adding email is already in use.
Okay, well, and then just forget about that. It's fine. Then just try to log in with Gitpod. Variable.py. Py is py.
Wait,
Yeah, just forget about it and then go to the Gitpod website. So HTTP, so this Gitpod bit.ly/Gitpod1. All right. So does anybody else need any help for setting this up? Does anybody else need any help? All right. If no, then we'll go ahead and get started. Yep.
How do we rename the file again?
Okay, I will talk about all that in just a little bit. Just make sure you have your file just make sure you create your file. Okay. All right. Whoops. Okay. All right. So now you should be able to see an interface like this. So now what I want you to do is notice there are 3 dots at the top right corner. I want you to click on it. And then you will see a few options, new file, new folder, and then just click on new file. And then go ahead and name this as a variable.py. Variable.py. Okay. And then you can press OK. You can create this file. There you go. And now on your right, you should be able to start to type some of the code. So yeah. So here's how you create a new file. If you want to rename a file, you can right click or double click, and then there is a rename, and then there is a delete, rename and delete, and then yeah, that's basically some basic file operation that you can do. And then another option that I would turn on is autosave, since I don't want to manually save it every time. So if you want to turn autosave on, just click on the file menu and click on this autosave. And then I'm going to close this variable.py and open it again. So now the autosave is not activated. All right. So there is your file called variable.py. And as we take a look, we'll go ahead and do some cool stuff with variable. Okay. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a variable called n and set it to the value of 15. All right. So to define a variable in Python, it's really easy. You just need to know two things. You just need to know the variable name, which is totally up to you, whatever the name that you want to call it. But usually it should be short and should mean something. And then you need to know the variable value. So you need to know what's the value to give it to. For example, do you want to set it to a number? Then, for example, do you want to set it to number 15? Then you need to say variable name equals to number 15. 15. Where you want to set to a text or whatever you want, you need to make sure you know the value. Okay. Even if the value is arbitrary or unneeded, we still need to set it to something. So let's take a look. If I want to create a variable called n and then set it to 15, I would do it pretty easily using this. N equals to 15. And I'm done. This is a way of how we can create a variable in Python. You just set n. What we just did in this line is it just set a variable n, which will just create a variable n, and set it to 15. Okay. So this is something now we can do. Again, you guys, I'm gonna wait for you guys to type a little bit. And then again, what we do is what we just did is we define a variable called n, and then we set it equals to value 15. All right, so does anybody, if anybody have any prior programming experience besides JavaScript and Python or HTML, CSS, does anybody see some difference or similarity with defining a variable in Python or with other languages?
Yeah, in C#, it's like you have to type bool or variable in front of it.
Okay, so Python, so first is C#, right? Well, what's happened is you need to type something like a bool. Bool. All right. That indeed is a difference. In fact, that's a difference that I exactly want you guys to say. Does anybody know what this actually means? Bool. Generally speaking.
About that.
What?
So is JavaScript kind of like a robot playing piano? Is it kind of like a robot playing piano? Is it?
I don't actually quite get what it's saying. Robot playing a piano.
I mean, the language, the thing you write, is it kind of like notes on a piano?
Oh, C#.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a language. I don't know what they named like that. So, yeah, that's a language. But does anybody know what this bool mean? The bool. Yeah, the word bool. Yeah, the Boolean. Yeah, Boolean. That.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not asking for C# what C# means. It's a language. I'm asking what does bool mean. Bool means a Boolean, and which means it only have true and false value. But more generally speaking, bool is a type. Bool is a type. All right, so it's a type that exists in programming. In fact, many languages actually in the programming languages, I believe, except Python and JavaScript, nearly all other languages require to type. So before you define a variable, so there's 3 things you need to know before you define a variable. You need to know a minimum for other languages. So you need to know at least the variable name, value, and the type of the variable. For example, do you want it to be an integer? Do you want it to be a decimal number? Or do you want it to be a text? Which we'll talk about string eventually. But this is type. And nicely for us, Python itself we don't need to worry about type for Python itself. So, but type does exist. Type does exist in Python. So now let's just take a look at some of the common types that we have in Python. Some of the common types that we have in Python. So for example, we have something called str. Str means a string. And what is a string? Well, you can just imagine string is a bunch of text that is enclosed in quotation marks. A sample of the string going to be quotation mark, hello, world. And closing quotation mark.
The default words.
What?
So,
Yeah.
Is it kind of like we put the word stir, like STR in front of it, and then write hello world? Is it kind of like that?
No. I'm just showing what the example of str is. So example of str. So str, for example, in this case, example of str would be hello world, for example, that is enclosed with quotation mark. We also have int. And then int is just means an integer. 0, 1, 2, and 3. We also have a number. We also have a thing called float, which is for floating point number, which is otherwise known as decimal. Decimal. So in this case, would be 1.5, 2.3, 2.3, for example, and then etc. So we also have other types in Python, but we will not focus on for this class. We'll talk more about types in the next class as well. Okay. All right. So this is something about types. Types sometimes it can be really confusing when you have to type in programming languages. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It just depends. But Python don't have type built into it. All right. So now again, we define a variable called n and set a value to 15. And then the type. What's the type of n? What do you guys think is what's the type of n?
Int.
It is an int. There is a way to check that as well. We're going to use what we call a type function. Type function, which is just basically takes in, you just need to, for now you don't need to worry about what does function mean. You just need to type type, with parenthesis. And inside of parenthesis, you can put whatever you want. And then you can put a variable name where you can put actual values to it. All right. And then we'll see later how we can actually make this program like do something really interesting, because it didn't really do anything interesting yet. So now we can expect that's gonna give us int. All right. Okay, so this is an interesting variable. It turns out that we can actually redefine variable pretty easily as well. Since there's no type of limitation, I can practically redefine n to anything I want. For example, instead of set n equals 15, I can set n equals hello world, which then in this case is a string or str, and the type of n just gonna be str. All right, type of n just gonna be str. Okay, so this is interesting, but now you will see, okay, we'll just type a bunch of things. How do we actually see something? How do we actually see some result? Well, to do that, now I'm going to use what we call a terminal. Terminal is below here, it's down here. if you can see my cursor moving, this is my terminal. A terminal is basically where you can compile files. In this case, Python is not really a compiler, it's an interpreter. It's going to basically interpret your Python code and then compile to a code that the machine understands. So for example, I can type Python variable.py. And now I can see nothing prints out. I don't see any errors. That's good because we didn't use anything that's related to outputs yet. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But here's how you can set a variable and some type, and how you can check type. All right, does anybody have any questions so far about how could you define a variable, redefine a variable, and types?
Yes. Can I put a print outside the type?
You could. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. All right, does anybody else have any questions? All right, if not, we're going to go ahead and move on, and then we're going to talk about this. So to make our file a little bit more organized, I'm going to creating all kinds of different files. So you could technically write everything in just one file, but I'm just going to try to make it a little bit more organized. So I'm just going to create a new file, as I'm going to name it io.py. And then I'm just going to, so in later class, I'm not going to say io.py, I'm just going to say io.py. All right. So here is our io.py file. And then now what we want to do, does anybody know what IO stands for in programming?
I don't know because I've only heard Slither IO and Agar IO and Paper IO.
Okay, well that I think that's some game that's
Indian Ocean.
No, it stands for input and output. Yeah, that's most of the time what IO stand for, input and output.
So Slither input output, Slither Indian Ocean.
I don't think so, but all right.
No, it's Slither Indian Ocean.
Okay, Jada, do you have any questions? I see your hands raised for just a second. Okay, I'm gonna assume you don't have a question because you're lower your hand. All right, so now this is io.py. Now what we're going to do is we're gonna take a look how can print some stuff out into our terminal. So here is what we're going to do. We're just gonna go ahead and print out something. So you can just use print. In this case, I can just use print hello world. And then now I can run this file by using Python. And then the file name is io.py. Now I can see hello world print out in my terminal by using this print function. Similar to type, you would type print parenthesis, and instead of parenthesis, you can type whatever you want. You can type a variable name there. You can type a value like a hello world. You can type an integer. You can type a float. The goal for this print statements is going to try to print whatever in the parenthesis out to the terminal. So that's the point for print. Okay. All right. So this is print. This is what we call output, where the user can actually see the code. Now we're going to talk about input, which I think is more relatively interesting. So here's how can we do it. I'm just going to delete this line. And then I'm just going to make a simple program. I want you to pay attention here because it's really one of the homework that's going to end in the class. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a new thing called input function. And then you can see the intelligence snippet are telling me that it needs a prompt. So prompt is basically some question that you want to ask the user that's going to display in front of it. So user know what are they actually typing. So in here, I'm just going to say name. So let the user enter their name here. So what's your name, for example? What's your name? And it turns out that I can set it to a value. So I can use it as a variable value. So you can just say name equals to input, what's your name? And this, yeah.
So I want to mention something. Even if you like input a number as your name, which is impossible, even if you input a number, it still comes as a string, like parentheses 5 parentheses. So you have to like keep that in mind that it always comes out, and the input always comes out as a string.
Yes, that's a great point. But yeah, in fact, think about, should I like add this part to the homework that you will do? But this is a little bit more complicated for checking it. It's actually not complicated that much. It just need to add like 3 or 4 lines of code to really check it. But we're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to assume the user's input going to be a name. But that's a great point. Yes, everything can evaluate it as a start when you're using the input function. But anyway, this input going to later get evaluated. What's the actual value for this input function? What's going to evaluate it as whatever the user's input is. So this is going to be whatever user's input is. Okay, whatever user's input is. And in here, I can say something like this now. And then now, what I can say print out name to keep it simple. So I can just say, okay, so what I want to do is I want to ask your name and then print out the name immediately. So now I can see, I can run this io.py, what's your name? Boyuan, and then it said Boyuan here, print out Boyuan. All right. But it's a little bit boring because I at least want the program to greet me a little bit instead of just say my name. So now what I can do is this. I can say something like this. I'm going to use what we call an Fstring in Python. I'm going to use what I call an Fstring in Python. So Fstring is basically going to enable you to embed some basic Python expression, within a string. To use Fstring, I simply add F in front of the string. And here, what I'm going to say is this. I'm just going to say hello name. Hello name. So at least I greet the user a little bit. Now you notice that I use the curly braces, and instead of curly braces, it directly refers to the name because I can do that in Fstring. So now if I run the io.py again, what's my name? Now I can see it's going to say hello. That's going to say my name to make it more user-friendly, so to speak. All right. Does anybody have any question for input and output in Python? Anybody have any questions want to ask? Okay. Well, if no question, then we're going to go ahead and create our first mini program, so to speak. So a program that actually did something. So this program is going to be something, this is going to be, so we're going to use the knowledge we learn, inputs and outputs, and we're going to create a simple calculator-ish thing. So, whoops. So now what I can do is I'm going to create a new file, and I'm just going to name it as calc, short for calculator.py. Calc.py. And then I'm going to go ahead and So basically, a user can type a simple math expression, for example, 5 times 5, and then my program is going to be able to output what 5 times 5 equals to, and return the value to them. All right, so I can do that really easy. I can just say exp for expression, and then I can use input. And here I can say something like this. Enter a simple math expression here. And I recommend you guys to follow me as well, so you can get some practice, because you actually need to do some homework that's going to like accomplish. It's gonna like accomplish with this class. So basically, we can check. I can check whether you understand the topic or not. So I recommend you follow me. But anyway, first we did some input function. So we set, and then we set the user's input, which is the actual value, set it to exp variable. So now we get our expression. Now we're going to evaluate it. And to evaluate an expression, it's really simple. Can use this eval function. And the eval is going to take a string. I'm going to put exp here to user's expression. And now I'm going to print out. I'll print out something. So I'm just going to use Fstring again. And I'm going to say exp expression equals to result. Again, it's exp equals to result. So now if you run this again, Python calc.py. Now you can see it asks me to enter a simple math expression here, 1 plus 2. And then you can see it's given me 1 plus 2 equals 3. And then I can enter another math expression, 5 times 5, and it gives me 5 times 5 equals to 25. All right. So this is basically a simple calculator by just using 3 lines of code. Later in the course, we'll talk about this eval function. This eval function is a really interesting function. All right. Okay, sorry about that. I didn't keep an eye on the chat. Let's see. Okay, how do you? Yes, I did. Great job. Then okay, whoever have a blank name, if you can change that, please, because I don't know how to address you. But let's see. Would print enter a simple math expression here. exp equals. It will work. So I can try. We can try that. But you can see some. We could see this. We could see this. So exp equals to input. It will work. So if that's what you mean, and then notice now the cursor, this line is not at here anymore. It's down. It's in a new line. But I can still type 1 plus 1, and it's still gonna give me result 1 plus 1 equals 2. So it does still work. It does still work. Yeah, does still work though. But I would recommend you to use this because it's immediately come after it, so to speak. So it's not creating new law. How long's the lesson? 2 hours. Okay. Is the GUI similar? Yeah, it is. Microsoft Visual Studio Code. Okay. Should be. How do you make the answer comes out? But just use print statements. All right. So you guys, that's all the question we have with this calculator. Again, with eval to evaluate math expression, we can literally see how powerful eval actually is and how evil eval is. But eval is going to be able to, for now, it's going to be able to for us to evaluate math expression, and they're going to be able to print out the result of the expression that users entered, and then the expression itself. All right, great. So, yes, Nicholas, is that your name? You are muted if you're trying to talk.
I didn't ask a question. It's just the background.
Okay, all right. Well, okay. So now what are we going to do? Okay, so now what are we going to do is what we're going to talk about is conditional statements. Conditional statements. And then conditional statements is a really interesting topic. It's actually what makes our program more interesting rather than just do some inputs and outputs, maybe some eval function in between. So now what I want to do is I will go create a new file again. I will actually create at least roughly 10 files. And then don't worry about saving it. It's automatically saving the cloud. And I'm gonna name it conditional0.py. Conditional0.py. And then before I begin, does anybody know what is a conditional statement?
You got if, elif, and infinite elifs and else.
Okay, so if. Okay, does anybody want to elaborate on that? So like what actually are these keywords do?
Elif means else if.
Okay, does anybody want to explain more like conditional statements in general? So what are exactly they're used for and how to use them?
Like if you all, I think whoever did Scratch before knows this.
So somebody type in the chat as well. Okay.
Also, I have a question. How do you run a?
Okay, good. So Kyle just said, yeah, well, we sent privately. I shouldn't say your name, but if something happened, do something. That's okay. That's a expression that can be somehow, that's a way to explain conditional statements. So basically, it's not something happens, is if an expression is true. So remember we talked about Boolean expression a little bit. Boolean is actually what we call Boolean. There's only two values attached to Boolean. A Boolean is either true or it's false. There's correct or not correct. Okay. Conditional means the important components, term and conditions apply. That's conditions, but it's conditional statements in this case. So it turns out we can construct it pretty easily, a conditional statement. We'll first use the keyword if. It's also called if statement. It's basically going to input an expression first to check. And if the expression is true, it's going to do something. Otherwise, it's going to do something. For example, in here, I'm going to say if. Actually, let me go ahead and define a variable beforehand. I'm going to define a variable called x equals 2. All right. And in here, what I want to do is I want to check is x equals 2. If x indeed is 2, then I want to print out x is 2, for example. All right. Okay. Okay. That's something that I want to do. And it turns out we can do it pretty easily. If you want to check the equality, we can use what we call double equal sign. I can just, in this case, I'm referring to the variable name. And I want to check is it the value is 2. So is x equals to 2. And I'm going to type a colon to finish off this Boolean expression. And now I can see it's automatically indented for me. Make sure you indent in Python because in correct places. Because if you don't indent in correct places, it's gonna y'all issue with a syntax error. And then here I'm just gonna say print out x is 2. X is 2. All right. So now what I can do is I can do something like this. So if I run this conditional 0.py, you can see it prints out x is 0 because indeed x is equals to 2. So it's gonna print out x is 2. Notice that we use 2 equal sign for comparing it and 1 equal sign for assigning a variable. And that's general practice for like most programming languages. Single equal sign means assignment, specifically assign variables. Double equal sign means comparing. Comparing, specifically check equality. Check equality usually. How do we make it print? You just use print, just type print, parenthesis, and put something in it. And it's gonna print out on the screen. And then on terminal, just type Python space your file name, and then it's gonna, if you did it correct, you should be able to see whatever you want to print and put it on the screen. Okay, so let's see. So okay, yes, I don't know how to address you, but instead of using if, we're using while, create an infinite text flow. We're gonna talk about that in just a little bit.
So I can't get my calculator to work.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit, since we're now talking about conditional statements. And then, but you can also check your source code. You can always check the source code if you don't know why it works. And then there should be a source code, there should be a zip file, and then there should be a file named calc.py. That file works, so you can comparing the code with yours to see where one's wrong. All right, so this is okay. So now you can see this is some basic expression. All right, basic conditional statements. Does anybody have any question with conditional statements? Does anybody have any questions? All right, if no, then I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. And then this time I'm going to name it conditional1.py. And in this case, I'm going to show you a little bit more sophisticated example of a conditional statement. So, so since I'm living in California, I'm going to use California's driving law, especially for age. So age, I'm just going to set it for 18. And then here is basically California's law for driving is age. So you could technically get a driving permit in California when you are 15 and a half years old. All right. So you could get a permit. So basically here's how it works. So 15.5 or below can't drive. 15.5 between 18, including 15.5 but excluding 18, drive under parental permission. So you must have a parent with a permission to drive a car. Above 18 or greater, you can drive a car without parental permission. All right. So this is some California's driving law on age. So now let's take a look. How can we put this into a conditional statement? For example, we have a variable. We have a variable called age, and then we're gonna set it equals to 18. And then if you guys need me go slower, please let me know, because sometimes, like if you guys don't ask me question, I don't know, is it a good speed for you guys? Or do I need to go faster or slower? Okay. And then I guess we'll go ahead and pause after I finish this example. So we can go ahead and go over some code we write. But here, so you can see we have something called age. We set this age variable to 18. And then now what I want to do is I want to write series of conditional statements that's basically going to print out something for any age to provide using conditional statements. For example, here's how can we do with it.
Who just said mom?
We can say this: if age. So now let's go ahead and check first case first. So if age is greater than 18, we're just gonna print you can drive without parental permission. After we need to say greater than or equals to 18. Greater than or equals to 18. And then can say print, you can drive a car without parental permission. Okay. All right. Then what I can do is this. Now I can see, then what I can do is this. There's multiple ways to do the rest of the thing. If I want to compare for the rest of the statements I made, I could just use 3 if statements. And then I can say if 8. So now I can check something. So now I need to check, is it age variable we define? It's between 15.5 and 18. And now we can do something like this. If age is less than or equals to 18. And then I'm going to use a keyword called AND to basically comparing 2 Boolean expressions at once. Okay, and I'm going to say age is greater than or equals to 15.5. And then here I can just say, actually no, greater, yeah, less than. And then I can say here, you can drive with parental permission. And then what I can say is I can construct a third conditional statement, checking 15 or below. So I can say age is less than 15.5. And I can just print, you can't drive a car. All right, we can't drive a car. you can't drive a car, for example. So this is how we can construct 3 conditional statements at once. Again, I'm gonna do a quick recap. So this is first conditional statements. If age is greater than or equals to 18, print out. You can drive without parental permission. If age less than 18 and age greater than 15.5, so this establishes this range. Print, you can drive with parental permission. Otherwise, if age is less than 15.5, so you cannot drive a car at all. So if you run this program really quick, Python, if you can have Python store, Python is support, it's fine. Condition 1.py. Now you can see you can drive a car without parental permission because it set the age into 18. And since 18 is indeed greater than or equals to 18, yes, it's just gonna print out you can drive a car without parental permission. All right. So, does anybody have any question? Does anybody have any question with conditional statements? You can try to type the code out, so you can see what you can try it out and tweak the code a little bit after class, so you can understand how it works. Or you can just try to copy the source code as well, which is available at this website. I'm going to paste that again. This is the source code. You can download the source code, find the files I'm working with, and then you can download it. All right. So again, does anybody have any question with anything we talked about? Conditional statements, input, output, variable, and stuff like that. When do we have a break? About 8. I put this breaks not really in the half and half, but yeah, I put it in 8. We have an 8 for break, 8 o'clock. 10 minutes. All right, does anybody have any recommendation for my code?
Yes, could you rand int? If every time it's 18, then couldn't you just say age equals 18 and then print you can drive without parental permission?
Oh, okay, what do you mean? Could you repeat that?
Like, since you said age equals 18, then you don't need to have all this conditional statement. You can just say print you can drive without parental permission. So I think you should do rand int.
Okay, let me ask you a question, okay? What if I take in a user's input, right? I don't know what the user's age is. I just predefine it here. So I predefine age equals 18.
So you can do input, what is your age?
I could, and then, but it's a little bit complicated because we need to change it, not really complicated, but we need to change a string to an int in order for the comparison to work. But for now, I could just imagine this 18 that I added. We don't know what exactly it is, okay? But, okay. Let's see. Okay.
Another thing, how about elif and else?
That's a great question. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, yes, we can use elif and else.
Because if you just do else, you don't have to write if age is less than 15.5. You can just simply replace it with else. That will be much, and it will also be like, it will look much more organized, and it will look more simple.
Okay, so yes, that's great. So now we're gonna talk about a faster way. Instead of construct 3, okay, I'm gonna temporarily stop the chat for a little bit. All right, I'm gonna temporarily stop the chat a little bit to cool the chat down a little bit. I'm gonna turn it back in about 5 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, just talk now. Sorry about that. But now we're gonna talk about elif and else. So, because you can imagine this. If we have 3 conditional statements, at least it's gonna execute once for all of them. For example, it's gonna check 3 times. age equals 18, is age greater than or equals to 18? Yes, it is. It's gonna pass here. But it's also gonna check this. Is age less than or equals to 18 and greater than or equals to 18.5? Well, age is greater than 18.5, but it's not less than 18. So it's not gonna, it's gonna return false here. So it's not gonna print out this. And finally, it's gonna run this. If age is less than 15.5. And then it's gonna say you cannot drive a car. It's not gonna print out that because it's 18. 18 is greater than 18.5. So now you can see here's the problem. After we print out age is greater than 18, we can just decide, okay, well, we don't need to check these two really now. Because these two, since this is true, then these two are gonna be false, right? Because there's not an age where it's gonna print out twice. Whatever your age is, you can either drive a car with parental permission, without parental permission, where you cannot drive a car at all. So now we're gonna go ahead and simplify the code a little bit. Now I'm gonna simplify the code a little bit, and then I'm gonna do something like this. Instead of writing exactly like that, actually I'm gonna keep the first part. But then here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use elif. Stand for else if, and then here I can just say elif age is greater than age is less than 18 and age is greater than 15 or equals to greater than 15.5. And then here what I'm gonna do is it's gonna print out you can drive with parental permission. Okay. All right. So now notice that I use an elif. Elif stands for else if. It is going to this chunk of code is going to execute it if the above statements is false. So for example, if age equal to 17, this is going to be false, and this elif is going to get executed. Else if. And then finally, I'm going to add an else. Since if the age is not 18 or greater, not between 15.5 and 18, so it must be 15 or below. I don't need to make any checking on that anymore. So then I can just use else. Else basically means if all of the above conditional statements are false, do this by default. So here I can just print out you can't drive a car. Okay. So this is a simplified version. Notice now the conditional statements don't have to execute 3 times. A maximum need to execute 3 times. Minimum is just need to execute 1 time. So it's gonna fast our speed a little bit. Well, to be honest with you, but we don't really need that kind of speed since that is like merely measurable by human. But still, this is a simplified way to writing the same code. And then we usually prefer that rather than just write 3 if statements. Does anybody have any question with if, else, if, and else? Word conditional statement journal. Does anybody have any questions? I just turned in chat back up, so you guys should be able to use chat now. All right. Does somebody need more time to catch up? Or does everybody need more time to catch up? No questions? Great. 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 All right. So I guess that means we're okay on our when you're getting a syntax error. You're getting a syntax error most likely at the indent. You need to make sure you have the exact code. Make sure you at least your indent here. So you need to indent every time we meet a colon, basically. And then you need to indent basically. Okay, your code looks good. Yeah, and then just press tab or space. Okay. All right, Peter. Okay. So all right. Okay, get a syntax here. Okay, which part do you get a syntax here, Peter? Okay. Well, how about this? I'm just gonna let you to share your screen, Peter. Peter, could you share your screen? Do you know how to share? Maybe. Okay. So where you can chat, you should be able to see a share screen. And then you should be able to share it. You should be able to share screen now. Okay. So just click on that. Well, does anybody else have any questions while waiting for him? All right. There. You don't. I don't think.
Hello.
Okay. Hi. Okay. Could you run your code one more time, please? Okay. I know why now. You need to go ahead and type exit. In your terminal. Could you type exit with parentheses? Because you're apparently in an idle environment. Okay, let's see, Matt. Okay, now if you try to run that again, you can see now it works. Because you need to exit out the Python environment first, since you are using the idle. That's the Python environment. Idle environment, because you have like the three like a left arrow thing. Matthew's, let's see. Okay, yeah, now it should work. How to exit again? Type exit with parentheses if you're in an idle environment, which you can know by just looking, do you have the three left arrow? Let's see. Do you have a recording? I'm not sure. The recording is not managed by me. All right, so seems like everybody's good. And then before we take our break, I suppose what we're going to do is we're going to talk about loop. We're going to talk about loop. Okay. Can I copy the code? Okay, Zoom has some. Okay, so Zoom is for some reason, Zoom is really bad at copying and pasting code. I paste it to Ethan, you can check. But I'm not sure. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
I have something to say about loops.
Yeah, sure.
Because if you don't use loops, like if you were stuck in, if you like loops, like if this condition is met, then do that, else do that, and you have to write all of that. But if you use loop, you only need to write all of that, and then write loop so that it would follow the circle. Like question 1, does I don't know, maybe 1 + 2 = 3, and then if not, then go to the next question.
Okay.
I am so confused on what he just said.
Okay, so I kind of understand, kind of didn't what you just said. That's what you just said is part of what loop's for. Specifically, you're talking about while loop. But that's not exactly how a loop is invented. The loop is invented so we can write small amount of code in faster time for the same thing as we don't use loop. So basically, loop is a way to run code for multiple times. And then you could add some condition in between. So take a look of a common example of loop. But before I talk about loop, I want you guys, I should have asked this before, but how would you guys, if I want to just say print out number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the screen, how would you guys do that? How would you guys print out number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the screen? And then another condition is we're using
Like for I don't know the for loop, but I know how to do in a while.
Okay, so we can use a loop. But what's the most simplest way to do it? What's the most? Yeah.
I think the simplest way to do it is print 1 and then Control-C, Control-V, print 2, print 3, print 4, print 5. I think that's easy for me.
That is indeed the easiest way. We're going to say print out 1, print out 2, print out 3, print out 4, print out 5. And even if we don't copy and paste, well, we just type 5 lines of code. It's still fine. So now if I try to run this, Python loop0.py. Now I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 get printed out on the screen. And that's a way to do it. But there is a faster way to do it by using loop. There are two kinds of loop, most commonly used at least in Python, for and while loop. We're going to take a look each of them today. Okay, we're gonna take a look each of them. So for loop. All right, so to do a for loop, what we need to know is some basic knowledge of for loop first. So for example, for example, when we're writing for loop in Python, you obviously need to start by using your keyword for. And then after it is what we call a counter variable. A counter variable. Counter variable. And then I can say in range of something, some number. So this is the example of for loop. Again, how can we construct a for loop in Python is you will start by using your keyword for, and then you will go ahead and type a counter variable. The counter variable is basically gonna store different number. Oops, different number in this case in Python. And then in range, this is the most interesting one. Range is going to basically what's going to do for you. You can just imagine is it's going to run the loop for whatever number you put it here. For example, I can put 5. So you can say for I in range of 5. So in here, so that means this loop is gonna execute for 5 times. I can change it to 3. The for loop can be executed for 3 times. Okay. Yep. Okay. So let's take a look how I'm actually write this down. We can write it down pretty easily. So I'm just gonna write it by start using for as our keyword. I can type I. So I can say for I in range of 5. So this means it's gonna execute whatever loop 5 times. Okay? Whatever the code under it, 5 times. All right. And then I can simply just say print I. And it turns out that the content variable I is going to be, each time this loop is getting run, is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each time of this loop can run. So we're going to call these as iteration. So each iteration as this loop get run is going to print out 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then here you can say print I. Okay, print I. So what's going to happen is this I variable going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 for each time this loop get run. Okay, so now I can take a look at this in action. Python loop 0.py. And then you can see, I can say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 gets printed out. Okay. And then if I want to print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I want to print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can just say print I plus 1. So now if I run the loop again, you can see now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Does anybody have any question? Does anybody have any question with how this for loop is get run? Anybody have any question how this for loop is get run? Do you guys understand what's for loop now, or do I need to explain more? You guys can use the chat now again. I forgot to turn back on, sorry. You guys need to chat again, or you guys can just unmute and ask. Do you guys understand like for loop, or do you have any questions for loop? All right. Well, if there's no question with how for loop works, let's see. We're gonna, so before our break, which is gonna occur in about less than 3 minutes, we're gonna talk about one more thing. You guys can go eat in 3 minutes. I'm gonna talk about one more kind of loop, called while loop. Just briefly cover it, and we'll cover more when we get back from the class. From the break. So, while loop is another kind of loop that Max just mentioned. It's a way to basically, use a Boolean expression to be determined whether the loop run or not. So instead of using the range, instead of using range to limit how it's getting run, how long it's getting run, how many times it's getting run, we can just use while, which is a Boolean comparison. It's going to keep running until the Boolean expression is not correct anymore. So it's false anymore. So here I can say something like this. I can say while 1 equals to 1, print out 1. Okay, I can say something like this. I don't run this code. Don't run this code. I have to give you the warning. Don't run this code. But I want you guys to think about this code during the break, since we're break time. We're almost reaching our break time. I want you guys to think about this while loop. So again, this while loop going to keep run until 1 equals to 1 is no longer true. Does anybody see any question that might be involved if I run this loop?
Yeah, it's gonna go
if you run this
forever.
loop, you're just gonna whoa, and you have to press Control-C to break it.
Okay, well, that's a spoil for you guys who doesn't know what's that. But we'll go ahead and explain infinite loop, which is what this loop is called. in just a little bit. So now is break time. We're gonna have break till 8, till for China Standard Time is 11:05. I'm gonna take a break really quick. Then I'm gonna finish rest of the code as I planned for today. All right. Thank you. Now can go to break if you want to go restroom really quick, whatever you want.
Excuse me, I just got on to the address. So which one do I need to click? Like, what do you want to do first?
All right, I'm back. So we still have 4 minutes breaks also, you guys can say.
Excuse me.
Yeah, what's the question?
It's like I just get into the address, and then which one do we need to click?
What
What
address?
do you want to do first?
What address?
Like the Python one.
The Gitpod?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, so you can create a new file by click on these 3 dots, and then
No.
click new file. And then you can just create, you forget about all these files, just create a file named loop1.py. That's
It's
how
like, yeah, no, I get it, but it's like, what do you want to do first? And then which one do I need to click?
What do you mean by which one do you need to click?
Like start a new object, collaborate with your team, how to use GitHub.
Okay, so, start and launch workspace.
Oh,
And then
So-
just log in with GitHub.
oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Excuse me, the website we went into isn't the same like yours.
Wait, what? Wait, what do you mean? The Gitpod? It's not the...
We went into the website and type in those things, but it isn't the same as your screen.
Okay, maybe you didn't create all those files. Is that what you mean? Or
It's like, excuse me, it's like there's 3, when I get in, it's like, do we need to click to learn more? Like there's 3 introduction to GitHub, or do we need to just start introduce, or it's like start introduction to GitHub?
okay, well, I just want you to end up with some place like this. So you just need to log in with GitHub.
Oh, yeah, log in. But and then it says launch your first course. Get to GitHub or quick and fun introduction, and to GitHub will get you
Okay.
up.
Okay, don't worry about that. Just open a browser, open another tab, and then just go to bit.ly/gitpod1.
Lee, which is it, LI or LEE?
LY.
/ GitHub.
So
Yeah.
is it kind of
Like,
like
there's so many. Like, which one do I need to do?
the statement is true?
Pretty much
that-
so
Oh,
many.
is it Python?
Okay, would
is
you,
it
could you share your screen?
Oh, yeah, of course. Is it this one?
No, that's not. Okay, that's not what I intend for you to go to.
Maybe
Okay.
if you remote control.
Okay, so okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to bit.ly.
No, you can control it now.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, you can control it.
Okay. What do you want you to do on your own? I don't want you to do it on your own because you need to eventually learn how to do it. So
Like
I would
that.
like you to go to bit.ly/gitpod1 as I showed on the screen and send in the chat. Since I think you already logged in, so just go here.
No, it's like last time I was in my mom's
Okay, could you just go? Sorry for interrupting, but could you just go so I can see if it works? See what's happening.
Maybe you can. No, I think you can control it.
Okay, could you type it on your own though? Because I want you to type on your own.
Okay. I can't seem to run the one where it's like the conditional zero Python thing.
Okay, I will show that in just a little bit. Gitpod, not GitHub, Gitpod 1. Once I get, I forgot what the student's name is. Once I got the student's workspace set up, Gitpod 1. Gitpod 1, yeah, 1, the number 1, yeah. Press enter. Click on login and launch workspace. GitHub.
Which one do I need to click?
You need to click on I agree the term of service.
Oh.
At least when you click that, yeah.
Do I need to like add to Chrome?
No, you don't have to.
Oh.
You don't have to. I mean, I never used it before. I suppose you can use it if you want to.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So every time will we open this tab?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think I need to add to Chrome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
Which one do you?
Let me stop your share for now. What? You can name it Gitpod if you're doing a bookmark.
Okay.
Hugo. All right. I know his her name now. All right. Nice background. Nice background. Okay, it's living my. Oh, but I guess it's fine. Okay. All right. I think that another student just mentioned they had some issue, right? Who just said that was okay. Who just said the conditional zero has some problem? Who just said that? Did somebody said conditional zero has some problem? Okay. Well, if no problem, then I'm gonna proceed on, and then this. Okay. So now I want to talk about not share screen. Okay. So now let's see. Okay. Now okay. So now what are we going to do is okay. So now we're going to talk about while loop. Okay, so as I mentioned, the difference between for loop and while loop is managed by condition, it's a Boolean expression. And a for loop is managed by certain time, how many time it runs. Okay, so you cannot share screen because you're using an iPad. Yeah, that's an issue. So now, again, we're back in with this loop, which has some problem, and then which has some issue. And then the issue being is it's using a okay. So the issue being this is 1 equals 1 is always going to be true. We can just simplify instead of 1 equals 1, 1 equals 1 and be 1 gonna be true. So while true, and they're gonna say print 1. So here is a problem with this code. It turns out that the loops never stop. The loop never stop. So how can we approach to solving this? Well, first of all, you can just don't have to write an infinite loop at all if you want to. What we can do rather, is not write this loop at all, right? So we can just say while, so we can do something like this. I could create another counter variable, 0, and then I can say while I is less than 5. I can say print out hello, and then I'm just gonna increment I by 1, okay? So basically it's gonna set to I equals 0 by default. And then I'm gonna say while I is less than 5, I'm gonna say print hello. I'm gonna proceed with I plus equals to 1. Okay, so yeah. So now notice then now notice this is no longer is infinitely true anymore, because it's gonna reach a time where I is 5, which then this loop will not get run anymore. So now I can say Python loop1.py, and then just say hello, 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 and hello. Okay, and then this is a way to solve the infinite loop problem. It's just to not use an infinite loop. The reason I want to show that loop is because this infinite loop is sometimes it's really like common. So I just wanted to let you guys know that infinite loop is bad. In fact, it can break your code, like literally break your code, unless you use break. Pun may be intended. So we're actually going to talk about another way to solve the infinite loop problem. But I accidentally pressed on the X on the workspace. Okay, kind of have to get it back. I'm not sure where is your X. I don't see X per se. Where's your X, Ken? Where'd you find your X? Okay. Well, I'm not sure. Next to workspace, there's no X. I cannot find. Could you? Okay. How about this? Could you annotate the X for me, please? I'm gonna enable attendee annotation. Could you annotate the X for me? Or can I just share a screen? Oh, there. Okay. Okay. That's not an issue at all. That's not an issue at all. And please don't do that annotation again, or just draw that black thing. So if you accidentally close like this, what you can do is you can go up to terminal and then click create a new terminal. All right, that's essentially how you can solve the issue really quick. You can just create a new terminal essentially. That's not a big problem. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm just gonna finish this lesson off with how can we write no problem. So how can we solve an infinite loop? So we're gonna talk about break out of the loop. So I'm not gonna talk about continue, because I think that's a lot of stuff that you know. as you know now, if you haven't had prior programming experience before, which I kind of don't know how you guys. Okay, but so now I'm going to talk about break. Break is used specifically when you're using a loop. And break basically means whenever I reach this break statement, it's going to break out of the loop. The loop going to stop. So if we run this again, so Python loop 1 dot py, now I can see hello. And then you can see, but I use a while true. It's supposed to run infinitely, but it turns out that it breaks right after print out the hello. So now the loop's over and the program's quit. All right. So that's something that we can do. So when the next session gonna be? Next Saturday, and then it's gonna be the same Zoom link. Yeah, print hello and break. So basically, you can break out of this loop, and then so that's basically how we can break it out of a loop. All right. So so that's all I'm actually going to cover for today. That's going to be all I'm going to cover, new concepts. I think I cover a lot of concepts, so I'm going to give you guys to ask some questions. So do you guys have any questions you guys want to ask? Whoops, that's not where I intend to be. I actually created Kahoot, but there's some concepts I quite not yet covered in the Kahoot yet. Does anybody have any question I want to ask? Anybody have any questions? All right. If there's no question, we're going to talk about the homework that you have. All right. The homework that you have for today. So what you can do to find the homework is you can basically go to, I don't think I added to a link yet, cc-python.glitch.me/week0/hello.html. That is your first assignment. I'm going to send to the chat. This is your first assignment and your only assignment for this week. So I'm going to show you the process that you should do it, and then maybe give you some hint. How do you do it? What's the email if I have a question to ask? That's a great question. I'm going to send it to here. There's a lot of description here. So I think it would be great if I can record a video. Okay. But I think it's just going to be better if I talk about in the class. Okay. So now this assignment specifically focused on the inputs and outputs. No problem. Specifically focused on the inputs and outputs. It's really simple in a way, but it's kind of hard. So the assignment that we usually give to you going to require some of your own research with Python's documentation. Okay. I'm not sure about recording. Maybe ask your parents if it's signed on somewhere. Maybe they send to your parents or email maybe. I'm not sure about that. But what I want you guys to do is, this is your Python's documentation. Be sure to save it. It's really simple. It's just like python.org. This is where you can find all of the code that's related to Python. And then you can see, here's the background. Remember about the input and output. Basically, so it's literally like input, print, the function that we use. And then here is what are we going to do. You are going to click on this assignment invite link. Okay, I don't think link. Okay, I'm just going to refresh. Okay, one sec. I don't think assignment invite link is, okay, just one sec. I'm not sure why my mouse doesn't work anymore. Apparently, for some reason. That's just great. Okay. Yes, I have to type it. So, okay. So basically, it should work for you if you go to that. If you click on the assignment invite link, /week0/hello.html, and then could you guys click on the assignment invite link? Okay, there we go. So now you should be able to click on the assignment invite link. All right. You can click on this assignment invite link, which then it's gonna go ahead and creating a repository. And then it's gonna take a while to create. Depends on your internet speed and stuff and such. Make sure to log in with your account as well. It's gonna take a while to create a new repo. So this is where you can edit your code. Since we don't have much time left, I'm just gonna skip this. I'm just gonna go skip this process. I mean, you need to wait for this done. If it takes really a long time, you could consider refresh the page if you want to. And then what you can do is once it's being created, it should show you a link where you can access your GitHub repository. But since I already created this beforehand, I'm just gonna go to github.com. And then, for example, there should be a link there that you can click after you create the repo for you. And then you should be bringing up to a page like this. Bring a page like this. And then what you need to do is you need to click on working in Replit. So notice I will have a readme.md. There's an image said work in Replit. Click on it. And then it's gonna bring you to a new interface. This is where you will use for coding. This is the online IDE specifically for coding. It apparently takes quite a long time for creating a repository. But it's basically gonna open up a new IDE for you. Maybe you need to create an account for this as well. Maybe, yeah, just log in with GitHub. And then this is basically where you can write your code, okay? And then this is like your homework assignments. And then here is how you write your code. This is basically like some sort of like a starter code or something, maybe not. But basically what you need to do is you need to take an input from user and then print out in a certain format. And the format's gonna be something like this. You need to print out, so you're gonna take an input from a user, and then you're gonna go ahead and print out in the format like this. You can expect it's gonna be a two-word name, but you have to print out in this format, in a regular name format, with first letter capital, with first name first letter capitalized, last name first letter capitalized as well, no matter what their casing is. So for example, this uppercase and lowercase mixed up John Doe will after you print out, it must be in all regular cased John Doe with J and D capitalized because they're the first letter of their its respective first name and last name. Same apply for all these different examples. Okay. So that's so this is basically the input that's I'm gonna give, and this is the output that's you're gonna you should be give out using print. So what you can expect to start is you can use input, type something, and then can print out. And then you need to print out in hello. So you need to type hello, and then since this is an F string, and then you need to, for example, you can store this as a name, as the input. And then in here, I need to type name. But this is not gonna pass all test cases. Obviously, it's not gonna pass all test cases. What you can do now is there is a method that you can use in Python. you can search specifically for a method, and that can help you to do this K thing faster. You just need to add something after this. You just need to add dot and then something else. And you can search that up in python.org, which I encourage you to do, since this can include, since this can help you with your own research. But then after you finish, and you can run this and check, after you finished, then you can click on this version control. And then what you can do is you can commit to you can type something. You can just type something in what did you change. So you can say whatever you want. Basically, submit my assignments, commit and push. Click on this, and then it's gonna start grading your assignment. It's gonna grade automatically. It's gonna grade automatically, and then so then I can go back to my GitHub. That's a little bit complicated step. But this is like the fastest way to auto-grade your homework. Or you can just email your homework in zip file if you prefer that. And then I can click on here. I can already see some people create their repo now. And then, whoops, I don't think this is it. But then I can go back to here. And then, see, okay, I need to find my repo, because then I need to tell you how to watch or view grade, basically. Maybe this. Okay, yeah. And then you can see you can see your commit message here, and then you can click on here. And then you can basically see your grades you got. The grades you got. Which you can see it's currently passing all my test cases that I given. So you could try that as well. However, I will go and change some test cases because I don't think I add all the test cases. So don't commit anything just yet. I will go and add more test cases from this example. So you'll have to like change this case thing because all the test cases it's given is nicely formatted for you. You need to print out something like this. And it's hello, hello. But you need to also handle if it's right in a weird cases. You need to be able to print out in regular first name, last name formats. Okay. So does anybody have any question with this? How with this homework? How to like submit this homework and stuff like that? All right. Well, it's still doing this. Well, if there's no more. Well, if there is no more question, then this is it for this.
I have a question.
Yes, Kyle. Yeah.
Can you send like the link that takes you to the replit?
It's gonna be after you create this repository. After you create this repository, there should be a file called readme.md. Then I can click on that link. The link is unique for every student, so I cannot give it to you per se. Okay.
I'm still confused what you just said.
What? What you just said?
Never mind.
Okay. That's basically it for this class. So thanks for attending this class, and I will try to do my best to go slower next time. Since some people cannot go with my speed. I apologize for that. But thanks for attending this class, and see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Bon.
No problem. Bye.
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 Okay.
Bye, thank you.
Welcome. Bye.